Even though we were in the dog days of an Appalachian summer, the engineer's compartment of the train felt like a deep freezer. But that ain't the reason there was a chill running up the colonel's spine. It's 'cause he was riding blind and he was afraid to use the horn. Now, this true story comes to us from Denise Smith. She runs a blog and a channel called Appalachian Heartwood. I really recommend you guys check this out. But this happened in West Virginia back in the 1980s. Her husband worked for the railroad for Norfolk and Western, and he had a co-worker they called the Colonel. Now, the Colonel showed up one night to return a tool that he had borrowed, and Denise says that he looked rattled. Only the Colonel wasn't the type to ever look rattled. He had been a full-bird colonel in the military and a police officer up north before he took the railroad job. He just moved down here because he met a lady from Appalachia and married her. But he said, "I've got a story for you, and you're not going to believe it." He said, "Did y'all hear about the lady that passed away at the railroad crossing last night down below Lebanon?" He said, "It didn't happen on my shift, but I got assigned to take the train on into Bluefield, West Virginia." Denise said they actually didn't hear about the incident until the following night on the news, but these things happen several times a year on the railroad. A lot of them were preventable. She said she clearly remembers one incident where a man had got drunk on a lawn chair with his beer beside him. Fortunately, the cow catcher caught him, and he just wound up with some broken bones. Anyway, the Colonel shook his head and said, "Well, whoever she was, she haunted that damn train all night. We had to send a railroad taxi to relieve the crew." The engineer that hit her said he blew the horn as hard as he could and put it in emergency mode, but it was too late. He said he saw her face, and she just had the most angry look on her face, and she let out the most god-awful, horrific scream at the moment of impact. Colonel said, sure enough, even though it was midsummer, as soon as he got in that engineer's compartment, it was cold like an ice box. And dispatch had told him that since the train had been involved in an accident, that he was not allowed to stop. He just had to run it straight through to Bluefield. Well, here's the problem. The two-way radio wasn't working, and all he got was static on his end the entire time. So he just had to hope and pray that everybody had moved out of his way. And not only that, to make matters worse, he said every time that train come to a railroad crossing and had to use the horn, that there came that horrific, god-awful scream again, every time they had to use the horn. Said it made the hair stand up on his neck every time he heard it. Not only that, the door to the engineer's compartment would shake real hard like somebody was trying to get in. And he says a couple of times he guesses they did because the door would bust open and it'd be banging back and forth real furiously. And the brakeman, he had to wrestle with some unseen force to get it shut and latched again. And then the windows was fogging up like it was cold, except the control handles were so hot that he had to use 2 sets of gloves just to be able to touch them. And it carried on like that all night, all the way to Bluefield. And the two-way radio didn't work the whole trip either, just static. Colonel said he has seen some strange things in his life, but he'd never seen anything like that. By the time they got to Bluefield finally, when he got off that train, he was so relieved. He just sits there wondering for a minute if what he just went through was real. And that's when he looked over and noticed that they hadn't entirely got the train cleaned up. The train wasn't all the way cleaned up from the incident. As he was getting ready to leave, he wrote the engine number down on a piece of paper. He said, to anybody, if you get assigned this engine and strange things start to happen, you'll know why. I think this one's going to be haunted for a while. That's been Jay's Haunted Appalachia for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. Thank you, Denise Smith, for allowing me to tell your story. Keep sending me those stories and suggestions, guys, and keep Appalachia haunted, y'all.